Okay, we start another one. We have talk about Ray done by Ray. So the stage is yours.
So let's start. Okay. Okay. So good afternoon. Welcome everybody. My name is Ramon Santamaria, Ray, and I'm the creator of this small graphics library, raylib. And today I'm going to talk about how has been my experience, my 12 years experience working in this library, and what have been the main challenges as a solo developer. So let's start. But before I start, I would like to ask, who in the audience knows what is raylib? Could you raise your hand? Wow. So nice, a lot of people. Well, for the ones that do not know about this library, I'm going to start with a brief introduction. What is raylib? Well, raylib is a graphics library that I created for education. At one moment in my life, 12 years ago, I had to teach video games programming to art students with no previous programming knowledge. Yeah, it was a quite difficult task. So I decided to create a very simple and easy to use library that was quite enjoyable to use to put things on the screen, to put graphics on the screen. Well, in the 12 years, the library has grown a lot. Well, actually grow, not that a lot, but has been ported to many platforms and has received bindings for many languages. At the moment, raylib can work in many platforms, as you can see, and also it has been ported to, I think, more than 50 or 60 programming languages. Still, I think that in that slogan, the key word is enjoy, because it was designed to be enjoyable to use. And I think that's the key factor of the library. What can I do with raylib? What can be done with raylib? Well, here is a small demo. Actually, this presentation has been made in raylib. Everything you can see is being made in raylib. Here is a small code editor. Actually, it's a functional code editor. It has been also made in raylib with just about 10 or 12 lines of code. You got a basic window with some text written on it. Also, you can do 2D here with about 100 lines. You can implement a bunny mark. This is a typical test to test performance. Actually, in raylib internally uses a batching system to draw many sprites in a very performant way. Also, it can do 3D. Again, with just about 80, 90 lines of code, you get a full 3D application. You can do shaders. Here is a Julia set implemented with a shader. Here you can load the shader and control all the parts. And yeah, it's actually a functional Julia set running in shader. Yeah. And lately, raylib also has been used in some companies for embedded system. Comma AI, it's a company that has recently used raylib to create all the UI for their autonomous driving devices. They have a device that you can buy, and all the UI has been made with raylib in the latest version of the Comma AI, the open pilot open source software. Yeah, that's what you can do with raylib. And okay, no, and maybe you are wondering what happened in 12 years. Well, actually, many things happened in 12 years. As I said, the library started as a weekend project. It was a small library for my students to teach them video games programming or graphics programming. But yeah, along the years, many things have happened. There is a small timeline with all the events that I have been recording along the years of things that happened. Everything has happened asking for some library in Kronos group forums, releasing versions, keep working on the library, keep working on secondary libraries, start doing some talks, participating in global game jams. So, okay, here, creating additional libraries. In 2017, I joined the Handmade Network. That is a network that for handmade software, and it actually was a boost for the library. So, because many more people saw about it. So, kept working in the library. At some point, I started working on separate tools, support tools for the library. I would talk a bit more about that later. And then by 2018, I got a Google Open Source Peer Award. And actually, it was a big boost for the library because since that moment, many people start noticing it and knowing about the existence of raylib. So, keep working on it year after year. I have not been working full-time during most of the years, but for some months I've been working full-time. Also by 2020, I received an Epic Mega Grant, and again, the library became more popular. By 2020, I quit my job at the moment and decided to work full-time for some time in the library. So in the following years, many things happened. Another Google Open Source, Peer Bonus Award, keep developing tools, keep giving talks, keep developing tools and more tools and more tools and different versions of different tools and support libraries. Well, I will talk a bit more about that later. But yeah, I keep working in the library very, very actively. And in the last year, actually, I was doing a lot of talks around and developing support tooling. And yeah, and that's important. And recently, but mid last year, I received an NL fund. Actually, I don't know if they're in the audience, but I want to thank you them because for the first time in 12 years, I was able to work full-time paid on the library, and it was a real boost for it because I could manage my time better and plan new features and improvements for the library. And since then, I've been working full-time, developing. Oh, yeah. Also, by the end of last year, a Puffer AI, that it's a reinforced learning company that uses raylib to set up training environments to train agents that play video games, has been sponsoring the library. It's the first kind of corporate sponsor I had ever. And yeah, and also Comma AI became the second corporate sponsor in 12 years. And yeah, and that has been everything that have happened. Many things happened. I know that it went very fast, but actually it was quite an adventure, 12 years. So, yeah. Thanks. So now let's talk about what have been for me the main challenges working in the library as a solo developer, as a solo maintainer. And I define those challenges are the 3 M's for me that were maintenance itself. It's a big library. There is a lot of things to do all the time. Issues, it supports many platforms, so maintenance itself is a really hard work. motivation, because it's quite difficult to stay motivated all the time along 12 years. So, well, it was difficult, so I will explain what were my techniques to stay motivated. And money, okay. But imagine that money is always an issue with open source software. So let's start with maintenance. That's a question that I would have liked to ask me myself when I start this weekend project. How long am I willing to work on my project? Because actually, I think it's a question that everybody should ask themselves when they start working in an open source project. Because depending on the answer to that question, you can plan for the future way better. Because if you know that you are working in a project for 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, probably you will take some decisions from the beginning, some better decisions from the beginning. But it's difficult to ask that question. It's not common to ask that question. So, considering that you probably not many people ask that question when starting an open source project, my recommendation, keep it simple. Keep it simple. It's something that worked really, really, really well with raylib along the years. When I started the library was intended for young students, and I decided to keep it as much simple as possible. And yeah, and it worked. What does it mean to keep it simple? Well, in the case of raylib, it means simple and clear code base. The code base is relatively small, so it's about 30,000 lines of code, the raylib itself. Then there are some support libraries that they are usually single file header only libraries that are way bigger than 30,000 lines. But raylib itself, it's only 30,000 lines of code. I try to minimize API additions. At the moment, raylib has 600 functions approximately. First version starts only with 80 functions, so it has grown a lot in the years. It's difficult to keep a project simple along the years, because sooner or later you start adding features, adding functionality, and it's very easy to go out of control, so be careful. Raylib has a very simple build system. I don't like build systems, so I try to keep things super simple to build. I tend to work usually with a single C file, very long C file, but I like to only have one file and be able to build everything in the command line with just one line. So that's something that I also applied to raylib, because back in the past, working in some companies, there were always problems with the build systems, super complicated build systems. So I try to keep it simple in that regard. And finally, something that really helped raylib has been automation. At some point, raylib started supporting many platforms and yeah, it was, and many architectures, and some kind of continuous integration, continuous delivery system was extremely helpful, but also some support tools that I've been creating along the years to help. About maintenance. That's actually the structure of the library with all the files involved. Actually, you got the links to the different files here. But that's the core library. That's raylib library. And that's just the architecture. Maybe it's not that clear how it maps to code, but that's it. Actually, raylib, there are 7 C files, some bigger, some small, some smaller. Just 30,000 lines of code altogether. So it's quite portable, self-contained. It has no external dependencies, so you can build the library in a single static library. Actually, it's recommended to be used that way. And you can link it with your executable for the backend platform you like. And yeah, that's it. You got the library. Okay, about automation. Well, as I commented, continuous integration, continuous delivery system was really helpful. Another point about raylib is that learning how to use the library is based on examples. Raylib has a very big collection of examples. At the moment, it has about 200 examples. And at some point, it became quite difficult to manage that collection of examples, because every time a new example was added to the library, it was not that easy to add the example, the .c file. It required to be out in several build systems, it required testing, it required to follow some conventions. So actually, it required modifying about, I think it was 27, 28 separate files in different places. I created a tool to do that automatically. It's just an examples manager that allows to add, remove, modify, rename examples, build examples in a very easy way. And then another point is bindings. At some point, I noticed that many people was creating bindings for raylib to many, many languages. Actually, there is even people that are creating new languages, and as a test, they bind raylib for the new language. So it has many, many bindings. Even some languages like Odin or Zeek include raylib as part of the standard packages available for users of the language. Well, for that reason, I also created a support tool at some moment to simplify bindings creation. In what way? Well, RL parser just parses all the raylib header and generates a semantic file with a function name, number of parameters, type of parameters. It can be exported into TXT, JSON, XML, multiple formats to simplify the bindings generation, the automatization of bindings generation for the users creating and maintaining bindings. About motivation, it's a question. How long can motivation last? Well, it's difficult to stay motivated all the time, especially with an open source project, but my recommendation is that your primary source of motivation for a project must be that you enjoy genuinely what you do. I think that's the most important thing. When you stop enjoying what you do, even you can try many things or try to get money or whatever, it's difficult to stay motivated. Say that, there have been some elements that have kept me motivated more or less along the years. First, users. I created raylib for my students, and as soon as I start using it in my classes, I start receiving a lot of feedback from them. They tell me, oh, I like that, I don't like that, better do that in that way. Well, they start giving me a lot of feedback, but also they start showcasing many amazing projects created by them. And I think that's very motivating, or at least for me, that was very motivating and was one of the reasons to keep working on the library. Another source of motivation for me were side projects. When you keep working in a project for so long, at some point it feels kind of repetitive, and just reviewing bugs, fixing issues, it's not that motivating. For me, it's way more motivating creating new things, having new ideas and creating new libraries. So I decided to, as I got that base library, I decided to start creating tools using the library. And it was motivating to create the tools, and I was also growing an ecosystem around raylib. Well, another source of motivation are recognitions. When you receive some award and some recognition, or some people ask you for an interview or to participate in some podcast or go to some event, that's really motivating. And actually, that also helped me to stay motivated while working on the library. And finally, I think it's also important for motivation, self-care. In my case, it helped me to have no-screen hobbies, to have some hobbies that I will show you right now that are not related to working on a screen and are more related to doing kind of handwork. For example, about the side projects, the raylib ecosystem. Well, here is raylib, but along the years I created all those support libraries for UIs, for PNG management, for initialization files, and all those tools to do many things. I like to investigate different fields, and while creating those tools, I had the opportunity to investigate about many different fields. Sound generator, texture packaging, UI generation, text editors, the timeline creator, that is what you have seen in a previous slide. So I created a bunch of tools and support libraries, most of them free and open source, but some of them also commercial and private. About self-care, well, those are some of my hobbies. I play guitar. I really enjoy playing guitar. I like cooking. And lately, I got a new hobby that is woodwork and restoring things. And well, here I restore a bunch of hammers that I got at home. So that's what I did last summer. It was really refreshing and kept me motivated to work later on computer again. And finally, let's talk about the third challenge that has been money. That's a question that I ask myself many times while working in raylib. How long could I keep working in raylib? Because for many, many years it has been very, very difficult. There has been moments that I've been working full-time. There has been moments that I've been getting some contract work or working at the university teaching to get some money to then allow me to work for some months full-time again on raylib. But it has been very difficult to keep doing that without a secure source of income along the time. My experience as a solo developer, it's extremely, extremely difficult to make money with open source software. That's my experience. I imagine that maybe if you are a corporate or you're a big foundation, could be easier to get funds, but as a solo developer, it's really difficult. What were my sources of money? Well, first it was donations. I'm getting donations from people around the world in several platforms. It's not enough to live from that, obviously. Along the time, I got some grants, and lately I got those NNet funds that really helped me for the first time in 12 years to be able to work in the project full-time with a kind of salary. And also some corporate sponsors that also, for the first time in 12 years, I managed to get 2 corporate sponsors in the last 4 months or so, that it was also very, very nice. And then I also tried to sell tools and services, but it's very difficult, and the amount of money that I got from that was really, really low to live from that. But even managing to get some money, even managing to get some funds for your project, I think that as a solo developer, there are some other challenges. First, the uncertainty. How long will donation last? Maybe 1 month you receive a lot of money or enough money to live, and another month you do not receive a cent. So, yeah, 1 minute. Oh, come on, yeah, okay. Well, the legal entity, how you manage to receive that money if you are not a foundation or a corporate. Life stability, you cannot plan for a future, and all those concerns make you ask you if I should be better to find a regular job. So, some points to remember, just to end. Simplicity, I think it's key for long-term maintenance. I recommend showing your project and build a community. I think it helped me a lot, so it's a recommendation. Money could be a bonus, but it should not be a goal, because it's really difficult to get money. And the most important point for me is that you should enjoy genuinely what you do. So that would be the takeaways from this talk. And yeah, that would be everything. Thank you very much. Okay.